she had all this knowledge and all this experience and all this wisdom in this realm that a lot of people were interested in, and she was just like totally, but it's just common knowledge to me.
It's just what happens.
It's
like,
just I just know it. Have you ever gone to do something before and you feel like, hey, I should really write a book, or I should create a course, or I should teach people this, and then you don't do it?
Yes.
You know, and one of the big reasons people won't do it is because they're like, well, I don't do that as well as so-and-so. Or I don't do things as well as this person, or why nobody needs this because this person does it, right?
Right.
Maybe we're the only ones who are guilty of that. I don't know.
Not likely.
Oh, you don't think so?
I mean, maybe.
So it's very interesting because I feel like there's a lot of small businesses, and a lot of small businesses fail. But I wonder if the reason that they fail is people don't go all in because they don't believe that they're necessary.
Ooh, that's a deep thought. I think you might be onto something there.
I mean, and I think maybe sometimes that we don't create because we're too busy comparing, or we don't collaborate with people because we're too busy competing.
Ooh.
And I hope I'm not the only one who has had struggles with this. Maybe I am, but maybe you have experienced that as well. So I was reading the Bible the other day, and this verse popped out at me. And so I want to share it with you, and then share two reasons I think we believe that people do this sometimes, lies in our heads that get in our heads that keep us stuck. And so the verse is 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12, and I'm reading it out of the complete Jewish Bible, and it says, we don't dare class or compare ourselves with some of the people who advertise themselves. In measuring themselves against each other and comparing themselves with each other, they are simply stupid. We will not boast about what lies outside of our area of work which God has given us. Rather, we will boast within our assigned area. And it's just very fascinating. And this is not an interpretation, it's more of an application, which basically, I mean, I read it and I was like, oh, like, do I compare my assignment to your assignment or to somebody else in the internet marketing's assignment? And I think it's really easy to do.
Yeah, I think it's always easy to compare to what other people are doing, right? Because it's easy to see other people's strengths and their gifts and those things, and it's hard to see your own.
Yeah, you feel like you don't have anything to offer. I mean, I felt like that. I'm like, what do I have to offer? I'm just me, right? Which leads us to the first lie that people believe. And Myron Golden actually termed this term, he uses this terminology, which I really like. He used this terminology that people have, the I'm just me-itis syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
The syndrome, he says, the syndrome of the I'm just me-itis gland. But
the inflammation?
The inflammation of the
I'm just me
gland. So what is I'm just me-itis, and what is this lie that so many people buy into? Well, at the crux of it, what it is you just said it. You said it's easier to see what other people have, and it's not as easy to see what you have because you're like, I'm just me, like, right. It's just me. And, you know, so you look at somebody like, of course, Oprah is famous. She's great at interviewing. Oh, of course. But she probably looked at herself and said, well, what do I have? I guess I just got to interview people. I don't have anything to say. Right. I don't know, like, pick anybody. Like, there's so many people who you look at and you're like, of course, they have this awesome skill. Like, right. Even, you know, people that you worked with, your friend, your coworkers, your spouse, your family members. It's easy to be like, I do it to him all the time. I'm like, yeah, you're awesome at X, Y, Z, and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I am? Like, what? I am?
Right.
And, you know, and same thing, it's easier for him to see things in me. So the first thing that I think keeps us stuck in this comparing and competing thing is we compare ourselves with other people, right? And the verse that I read earlier was like, don't compare your assignment with somebody else's assignment. And I think our culture breeds comparison.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the culture God called us to be.
No, definitely not. I think there's an interesting thing you could do, right? You could go and look at your family, like a family member or a friend or whoever, and list, like, as quick as you can, list out like 10 things they're really good at, right? And then what I would do is I would time myself, right? So start a stopwatch, got one on your phone, start a stopwatch and write out 10 things they're really good at. Okay, now stop it. How long did it take you? Now do it for yourself and write out 10 things that you're really good at and see what the difference is and how long it takes, because my guess is it's going to take you at least twice as long to come up with those 10 items for yourself. And if it doesn't, congratulations, you're ahead of the curve.
But if not, you might have an inflammation of the I'm-just-me-itis gland.
Something like that.
And it's funny, somebody actually, I was on a coaching call that I was help facilitating. I wasn't coaching, but I was on there helping facilitate. And somebody who had worked in like government contract arenas, and she like basically was the person who would like approve or deny them. So she knew like what governments were looking for. She knew the criteria, right? And she asked the question like, do you think that I should coach people on how to get government contracts? Like, and she had all this knowledge and all this experience and all this wisdom in this realm that a lot of people were interested in. And she was just like totally, but it's just common knowledge to me.
It's just what happens.
It's
like,
just, I just know it. And like in the chat, it was funny because it's like people were like, hey, I want to get a hold of you. I would like that. And it's so funny because it's so easy to just think like it's common.
Just brush it past.
To think it's common because it's common to you.
Right.
Right. And so if that is you, if you're suffering with that, I would, not suffering with that, but if you are challenged with that concept, then I would, somebody challenged me to do this once, is they said, go ask people, hey, what would you ask me for help for? Like if I was going, like, how would you, like, if you were having an issue or a problem or a challenge, what would you ask me for help? And like people you trust, people who are not going to just feed you lies, but people who like really will give you the truth, like start asking and looking and ask God to like, hey, what am I good at? What skills and knowledge am I sitting on that I'm not using? Right? Or don't recognize as valuable that are valuable to other people. So that's number one. Number two is this. I call it the star quarterback syndrome. Ooh. And the star quarterback syndrome, like you like me went to a high school. Mine wasn't super big. I think I had a 200 person graduating class. You had more than that. You had like 500. Right. But we had a smaller school. And no matter what size school you were at, though, who was the most popular person, at least in our generation? I think it's changed now, but this was back in the 90s and early 2000s. Who was the most popular kid in school?
Typically the quarterback, but not always.
Not always, but one of.
A star athlete.
But one of the most popular kids in school, might have not been the most, but one of the most popular, was typically the quarterback. And to your point, it could be a star athlete. It could be the starting basketball player. It could be whatever. But why? Well, because everybody was like looking at them and saying, oh, well, they have this super valuable skill, right? And it's funny, we sometimes look at the world that way, even as grown-ups, and we're like, oh, look, that person's on stage. They're like awesome. And we have this like, it's almost like this like stardom, starstruck, like,
yeah.
They're famous. And it's just in their arena that maybe they're on stage or they're talking a lot. And you're like, But here's the thing. You know football fairly well. You never played football, but you know sports.
I played a little bit when I was younger.
That's right. You were really good at bear crawling. Anyways, so you know what would happen if you took that high school football team on Friday night? They went out under the lights and out from the tunnel, if they had a tunnel, I don't know. And they ran, and it was only the star quarterback that went on the field. That was the only person.
Well, that would be problematic for a lot of reasons, because last I checked, 11-on-1 is kind of bad.
I don't think
odds.
they'd even let you play the game.
Well, yeah.
But if you could play the game, would they win?
Not likely.
Not.
It would be very challenging to throw the ball to yourself. I'm pretty sure that's illegal. Yeah. I don't even think you could actually start the game, because I'm not sure.
You can't snap it.
You can't snap the ball, and I think you have to snap it. So,
anyways, we digress. But the point of it is we have this preconceived notion that one person on the team is more important than the other. But if you really ask Bill Belichick, really that's not true. because well, here's the deal. Like, even if those skills seem to be the most important skills on the field, it doesn't matter, because if they don't have the other players, they can't even perform their skills. They can't even do their skills without the skills of the other people, right? And so that's the fascinating thing about it, is we have this idea in our head, and a culture, I think, does this through Hollywood and a bunch of other things, is like, this person is more important than everybody else. Look.
Well, they do it with, glorify superheroes, right? And superheroes are usually one-man shows, typically, not always, but a lot of times, you know, it's a superhero, right? It's not like a team. Obviously, there's the Avengers and things like that, but typically
we're taught to overvalue one person, one position over the rest. And in all reality, that's not how that works in God's kingdom. Yeah, it's God and then everybody else. Nobody's assignment. My assignment is not more important than your assignment. And your assignment is not more important than anybody else's assignment.
Right.
And so it's rewiring how we think. But the beautiful thing is, if you recognize these two syndromes, if you will, the I'm just me-itis syndrome and star quarterback syndrome, if you recognize them in society and in yourself and in your life, then you free yourself from the idea of you have competition with other people. And then you're free to do what you do and only you can do. And when you do that, one, you stop stopping yourself.
Yep.
And you can actually move forward.
Go do what you're designed to do.
Right. Because really we waste so much time stopping ourselves, comparing and competing instead of creating and collaborating and doing things that are within our assignment. And when you do those, when you lean into those, that's when you start to stand out. When you lean into what you're gifted at and stop trying to be somebody else, that's when you actually are going to create the most value, generate the most income, and be the most content.
For sure.
And so that's something that we talk about on this channel, and we like to interview people and let them share, so you guys can hear people's assignment in different people's assignments, so that you can see not everybody's doing the same thing, and a lot of people are winning a lot, and it's not just the ones you see on stage with a microphone. It's not just the ones that you have like 15 books written by. It's not just the ones that are on stage at the big conferences. There's a lot of people providing a lot of value and helping a lot of people.
Well, and I think the other key part of that is winning looks different to everybody.
Absolutely.
Right? Like my ideal life isn't necessarily your ideal life. And so
do you have to make $5 million a year to be winning?
Not necessarily. You might have to make $20 million a year to be winning.
You might need to make $500,000 a year to be winning,
or $100,000.
It just depends on your assignment, who you are, what it is, the lifestyle you desire, the type of work that you desire, what it is that helps you to feel accomplished. And I think I believe that as long as you are living in your assignment and fulfilling your potential, then that is where the success comes from. And obviously we come from a biblical background, so I believe that comes from your identity in God and pleasing him and serving the people he's called to serve you. That's really where that comes from.
For sure.
And the rest kind of fall into place. And so this whole thing was to encourage you, if you've stopped yourself because you're like, my assignment's not that important, we want to encourage you to stop and take another look, because God's created you with an assignment that only you can fulfill. And he's created you to be you, and that's not going to look the same as everybody else. And so stop comparing and competing. Lean into your strengths, lean into your assignment, and that is when you'll stand out. That is when you will be most content. And that is honestly when you will create the most value and also generate the most income.
Sure.
And so that is our encouragement to you today. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and check out one of these interviews right here and find out how they're living their God-given assignment.